Meet Rob Gresham, the former director of operations at Cava and founder of Isaac's Poultry Market, a fast casual sandwich restaurant that won the Best Sandwich in Maryland award in 2023. We interviewed Rob today and got his expert opinion on opening a restaurant, backed by his 30 plus years of experience in the restaurant industry and projected $2 million in revenue in his restaurant's second year of business. Hopefully all of you future business owners learn a lot from his key insight, and if you're ever in the area, be sure to check out Isaac's. You won't regret it.
So just to start off, for a little introduction, what was the inspiration behind Isaac's Poultry Market and what made you create this restaurant?
So Isaac's came about during the pandemic when we were all locked away. My wife's business got really busy. Mine, I have a consulting business for restaurants. All the restaurants were closed, so they didn't need a consultant. My older son was a freshman at Good Counsel High School, and they switched to virtual learning like that. My younger son was in 7th grade at MCPS, and his home learning was Xbox. So after a couple of weeks of me and him not doing anything, I went to him and was like, all right, I'm going to teach you how to write a business plan, and we're going to come up with a really cool restaurant. So at first we started it was just as an exercise to keep my mind going and get him to do something other than play Xbox. And I had no intention of opening it. And as we kept going, I was like, you know what? We're going to open it. So that's kind of how it started.
That's really cool that you got to incorporate your son there.
Yeah.
Bouncing off of that, could you tell us a little bit about your occupation before creating this restaurant, your consulting business maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in restaurants since I was 15, started washing dishes, got my first cooking job the week of my 16th birthday, and it's really all I've ever done. So before Isaac's, I still have a consulting business helping full service restaurants and fast casual restaurants and some food manufacturers just help with their P&Ls, cost controls, staffing, management, organization, just kind of a little bit of everything that goes into helping them become profitable. And then before that, I was the director of operations for Cava. I created their operations and saw them from 0 to 80 restaurants in 12 states.
So would you say your experience in Cava definitely helped you in starting this restaurant?
Yes, yeah, definitely. My experience with them, and then years ago, I also worked at Chipotle for a while, so the two of them really helped.
Yeah. No, that's great. Our next question, how did you plan and organize this business? I know you talked about the business plan, but what really went into planning and organizing this business before you officially opened it?
A lot. One, coming up with the idea and the theme, chicken theme. And then I started, it took me about 2 years to write every single recipe. I wrote every single recipe to try to eliminate as many food allergens as possible. And we're also about 95% gluten-free. So it took time, but then creating the logo, the branding, the image we wanted, that was second. And then once we had the image and the logo and the branding, then I had to create a pitch deck to put together about who we are, what we want to be, and what problems we're going to solve in the marketplace. And then I was able to pitch that to potential investors. And once you raise enough money, then you start talking with architects and looking for a location. And then once you get the location, sign the lease, then get with architects, kitchen designers, come up with how you want it to look, how you want it to feel, and then build, hire, and train, and open.
Could you tell us a little bit more about the strategies you used to obtain funding? Because that's one of the biggest concerns when starting a business.
Yes. So typically, full service and fast casual businesses are separate. Like, they're completely different in how they operate and how they fund. Typical fast casual business, you want to raise $3 million and give up 30% of your business. And that $3 million, you should be able to open 3 or 4 stores. Pre-pandemic, 4 stores. Post-pandemic, 3 stores. And so, I went to some of the original investors at Cava, pitched them, talked to them. They knew my background. They liked what I was doing. so they got in, and then other local businessmen and people that I knew and other friends knew, and some investors introduced me to some of their friends, and so that's kind of how a lot of meetings, a lot of Zooms, a lot of selling the dream about our growth and our plans, and we're able to raise enough to start going.
So those connections from Kava and other places you worked at were really key.
Yeah, connections are very important. Everybody you meet, like I tell these guys and I tell my kids, don't ever burn a bridge. You never know when you're gonna have to cross it again. Treat everybody the way you want to be treated, and build relationships with people, and down the road they might be able to help you out, or you can help them out sometime.
Yeah, that's great advice. Initially and in the early stages of Isaac's Poultry Market, what did you spend and invest most of your time in to secure success?
I spent the most time writing the recipes. That was the most. And then pricing out the menu and making sure we got the right ingredients, the right everything. That was definitely the most. I've opened, I don't know, around 100 restaurants. So I don't want to say it's easy, but I'm comfortable doing it. So a lot of it was just what I've always done. So it was the recipes and the food, and what we wanted to be was the most.
Do you have any tips for outsourcing ingredients and creating recipes?
Just be yourself, have fun with it. Your imagination is the only thing that holds you back is your imagination. So have fun, play with it. Some recipes are terrible, and that's okay. Throw them away and start again. And ingredients, here and even at home, I don't use anything artificial. There's nothing artificial in this business, in this building at all. No artificial sweeteners, flavors, colors, nothing. Just real food that's done right. And that sometimes is more expensive. But we try to stay true to ourselves and make sure we're getting the best possible ingredients. I've met with the chicken farmers. You try to have as much hands on your product as possible.
Yeah, staying true to your values is definitely an important thing to remember.
Yes.
Another concern for starting a business is employees, because it's impossible to run the whole operation by yourself. So what qualities did you look for when creating a team to help you run Isaac's Poultry Market?
It was very easy for me. I only hired 3 people that hadn't worked with me before. Delmy, who's managing here today, she and I have worked together for 20 years. The gentleman that was here last night, he and I have been together for 20 years. Iris, who's a supervisor in the back, been 8 or 10 years. So it was very easy. I like-minded people that want to have fun, want to work hard, that care about people, and care about doing a good job, but enjoying it. I tell everybody I have the best team in the world, but it's because we've been together for so long. We know each other. I think the key is, I don't think staffing is hard, as long as you understand, it's a restaurant, but I'm in the people business. We just happen to sell food. So my job is to take care of the people making the food. I work for them. If I make their jobs as easy as possible and they enjoy their jobs as much as possible, then they're going to put out great, consistent food every day, and they're going to have the greatest service for our customers that are the ones that actually help us pay our bills. So as long as you understand that, it's pretty easy. Just, again, treat them the way you want to be treated.
It's that simple, right?
It really is.
That's some great wisdom. What are your top tips for effective time management and focusing on the right tasks?
That's a tough one. So every Sunday, I was taught this years ago from a boss I had. Every Sunday, take about 15 minutes and just write down everything that you have coming up in the next week. What are the most priorities? What are the must-dos? What are the want-to-dos? what would you like to do? And then the night before each day, okay, I've got this meeting, I've got this, make sure it's in your calendar, and then write down the top 5 things that you want to get done, where you have to get done. And as you go through, sometimes those things don't get done and then it gets pushed the next day. But it's making sure you've got a good list and a good management of your schedule to keep on top of what has to get done. Like this morning, I was able to finish something that's been on my list since Tuesday. And it's just been busy and other things coming up, but I made sure I kept watching and seeing it. All right, that's gonna get done, because sometimes things that are more time pressing jump up and you gotta get to that fast. But the key is just being organized and true to your schedule.
So planning things out definitely helps you
100%.
keep remembering things.
Yes.
So you don't forget when you have a huge workload ahead of you.
Yeah, planning and organization is one of the most valuable things you could do.
So many businesses struggle with maintaining and managing sudden, unsustainable, unstable surges in demand.
Mm-hmm.
How have you ridden the wave of demand and maintained a customer base that is dependable and consistent?
So do you mean demand as far as certain products or just as you get busier?
Well, sometimes businesses might go viral on social media, or word of mouth just has a huge burst. But once this virality dies down, a lot of these people come a couple times and then they just leave. So how do you keep a customer base that keeps on coming?
There's a couple things. One is you've got to have a clean restaurant, you've got to have great service, and your food must be consistent. If it's a warm, welcoming, inviting environment that people know what they're getting every time, they tend to want to come back more and more. And then you've got to market, loyalty programs work. You get people's emails, you email them once in a while, but you don't want to be annoying and email them too much, but just enough to say, hey, remember us, we're here, or hey, I haven't seen you in a while, or hey, happy birthday, just to keep them engaged. Social media also helps. It's a reminder. Hey, we're over here, don't forget us. And it's just, constantly nudging, like, hey, we're here. It's just keeping people engaged is really what it's about.
Being dependable, you would say, is very important as a restaurant.
Yes.
Keep people coming.
Yes. The more people trust you and they respect what you're doing, the more they'll come in.
On the topic of social media, you've received lots of coverage from outlets like Fox 5, DC News, and you received the Best Sandwich Award in Maryland.
Yes.
How much do you believe this social media coverage has contributed to the success of Isaac's Poultry Market?
It's been huge. Really huge. We won the Best Sandwich in Maryland from the Restaurant Association, and then I was invited to go compete at the World Food Championships. And the Moco show called me and said, hey, we heard about this, and they ran it to their, I don't know how many followers they have, they've got a lot, and they ran it, and we got slammed in business. For the next 3 months was crazy, and it started with them, and then from them, WTOP saw it and asked to do an interview, and then Fox 5 saw it and asked us to come on, and ABC News, and it just kept going. But it was really spurred from one Instagram post.
And what you just said of the social media coverage in that competition, how did you tackle the sudden increase in customers and possibly full restaurants?
I've got the best team in the business. They were getting busier and busier than we've ever been while I was in Dallas competing for the World Food Championship. They had it in control, planned with our vendors, got extra deliveries, put on extra staff. You just gotta because you're getting customers for the first time. So if their first time coming in is when you're super busy, well, they still have to have a great experience where they're not coming back. So you add more people to the staff, you bring in more food, you get food more often. You just got to stay ahead of it as much as you possibly can. And my team did a phenomenal job at it.
You just mentioned adding more people to the staff. How did you do that in such a short time? Because the recruiting process is oftentimes a long one when you have a lot of applicants in interviews. How did you finish that recruiting process and get new staffing so quickly?
Well, it was easy for me just because so many of them had worked with me before. So really, we only hired 3 people. And everybody that's here has been with us since day one. So we haven't hired anyone since we opened. We do have one cashier she graduated from high school and she's going to college. So she's leaving next month. And I've already hired her replacement. So that person will be our first person we've hired since we opened.
If you don't mind us asking, what has been the most total revenue you've made in a month since you started this restaurant?
I won't disclose that.
Okay, that's fine.
But I will say, anytime you open a new business, especially a restaurant, when you're a brand new brand and nobody knows you, you have to earn it. Your first couple months or your first day or two might be really big, and then it drops, and you've got to grow, and you got to be consistent, and you got to fight, and you got to work, you got to earn it, and then slowly get your sales going up. So I will say, in the 15 months we've been open, our sales have continued to go up to where I'm happy, to where I think they would be. So we're doing well.
Can you give us an over or under 150,000 a month?
This store will finish the year at about $2 million in sales.
With your second location opening up in Burtonsville this fall, what is your vision for the future of Isaac's Poultry Market?
Burtonsville opened in the fall, probably October, November. We're looking for a third location now. I would like for it to be in Northern Virginia, just looking for the right spot. But there's also other areas in Maryland that we're looking at as well. So it just depends on which right spot comes first. And then from there, after the third store opens, as long as all 3 are doing really well, hopefully we can go for another investment raise that can really fuel our growth to add more locations. We would like to fill out the DC area as much as possible, whether it's 10, 12, 15 stores, time will tell, and then gradually work our way south into other markets.
How far ahead do you tend to plan for this restaurant?
It depends on the space. We're looking for one in Northern Virginia. Right now, I would like for it to open this time next year. It depends on the space, it depends on a lot. But typically, it's a year before you open a store that you start planning it, on average.
Yeah. If you had to say one thing to all potential restaurant founders out there, what would it be?
Don't do it. No, I'm just kidding. 60% of all restaurants fail in the first 2 years they open. And it's not because it's bad food or bad service. It's because a lot of people open restaurants without understanding the total business. So I would do the research, make sure you have the right suppliers, make sure you're getting the right ingredients, make sure you're pricing out your equipment, your food, everything. Plan as much ahead, budget everything, price everything, and just make sure you're as prepared as possible.
Could you explain a little bit more about what you meant by the other aspects that many restaurant founders don't look at?
Yeah, in my consulting side of my business, a lot of them, I've had a lot of clients that don't know their true food cost, where they're selling items and they're actually losing money. after it's made, after labor, after packaging, they're losing money on every item they sell, and they didn't know that. Some don't do inventory, so they don't really know the true value of the items they have in their location. Some don't have P&Ls, so they don't know if they're profiting or losing. So it's really understanding the business and the numbers. I think it's very important to truly understand your P&L and your numbers, because your numbers is what really drives your business. And a lot of restaurant owners don't know that when they start, and so they struggle until they learn that how important understanding and organizing your numbers are.
For the viewers that don't understand what a P&L is, could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's a profit and loss statement. It starts with your sales. And then you can do a breakdown of your sales into different categories. We do food and beverages, beer, wine, and then it has all your costs, all your food you paid for, all your packaging paid for, your labor, your rent, your music, your trash, any licensing fees, all of it. And then at the bottom number is what you profit. A typical fast casual to be considered successful, it's a 15% profit. To be best in class, it's an 18% profit, and world class is over 20%. Like your Cavas and your Chipotles usually profit well over 20%.
That's the dream, right?
Yeah, that's where you want to be.
So the financial side of owning a restaurant is just as important as the creation of like recipes and stuff.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Rob, for coming out here and talking with us. I'm sure everyone watching definitely had a really good experience listening to you. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. We really hope you learned something from our interview with Mr. Gresham today. Be sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date with our uploads, and be sure to follow our Instagram at biz.buds for any additional updates.